expect to see you here. Considering my goons were meant to annihilate you 8 minutes ago.
Hey, it's okay. See? Just me.
We'll find a way. Like always.
So you're just gonna give up on her? Because you're afraid?
Says the big hero who's too scared to look for the other Lombaxes? At least my fear makes sense.
Hello everyone, and my name is Gamessnia, and welcome to the show where we look at games from the past, present, or sometimes even the future and decide what their judgment is going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gamessnia show. But you know what, have you ever had games that help you mold into a person, a much better person, a person that helps you understand much more about everything that makes a game, that makes everything a game the right type of game? You know, stuff like gameplay, characters, story, the way you do stuff, the stuff you don't put in a game, as well as the stuff you can and must put in a game, all that type of stuff. And I'm sure everyone's got their own franchises like that. I've got a couple myself, like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid, but the very first franchise that I ever had that with was Ratchet and Clank. I love Ratchet and Clank. I've literally played every single entry in the series since its original game on the PlayStation 2. And speaking of the PlayStation 2 with those games, I remember playing the first and second game when my brothers had it on the PlayStation 2, and then me thinking, oh, I want to get Ratchet and Clank free for Christmas, and I did. And Ratchet and Clank 3 possibly being my favourite game in the franchise, as well as being some of the fondest memories I had as a child. Like, that will never be taken away from me. I love those memories, and I still love Ratchet and Clank 3 to this day. Like I said, it's my favourite game. And hell, even to the point of me playing the Ratchet and Clank trilogy for my Gamessnia channel way before I ever did the Gamessnia show, just shows how much of a amazing franchise it is. I mean, those are probably the only fun memories on my Gamessnia channel before I did the Gamessnia show. Seriously, and it actually led to the creation of the Gamessnia show at first. So you can imagine my excitement or overall hype I had when they announced a Ratchet and Clank game on the PS5 named Rift Apart. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to today. And before you ask, yes, I'm well aware of the fact the first 3 games are a major callback for this channel and would be a perfect idea of a video considering the trilogy of games is one of the first things I ever did on this channel. And let's be honest, the only decent thing on my channel before the show even existed. But that video is too big that it deserves to be saved for a much bigger, momentous occasion. Even though I'm really excited to play Rift Apart today, there's just one little thing. I'm feeling really excited, but also at the same time I'm feeling really hopeful, because the last 4 Ratchet and Clank games that I've played at least have not been exactly what I imagined. Ratchet and Clank Nexus, yeah, that was, it was kind of disappointing. It's a bit too short, the story feels a bit of a meh, it feels really messy a lot of the time. There's no true development for anyone in that story, and the game just kind of ends abruptly. And then you have the Ratchet and Clank reboot, which is the recent one, of course. And while though I think that game is absolutely beautiful, its gameplay is top notch, I personally think they kind of ruined everything about the characters to begin with. You know, they ruined Chairman Drek, they took in Dr. Nefarious as a last minute villain, which was just kind of desperate in my opinion. Plus the origin story, you know, the thing driving the game, that was kind of tame compared to the original story, which was much more realistic and much more grim and darker, and I just didn't personally like the reboot as much as I thought I would. I love the gameplay, it's just everything else I just don't like. I'm not a fan of it. So this is actually going to be a bit of a dodgy topic for me, but regardless, I'm willing to give it a go, and I'm willing to jump in. It's a Ratchet and Clank game. I love Ratchet and Clank more than anything, so I'm willing to give it a go. So let's of course just begin this and start the new journey into Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. But it's been many years since wait, hold on a second. Good grief, I never get tired of that. It's been 5 years with a morsel of a taste of Ratchet & Clank on our screens, but now that the dynamic duo of gaming, at least from my perspective of things, are back and looking better than ever, but this time it's on PS5, son! Whoa! What is that? Is that difficulties in a Ratchet & Clank game? Of all things. What the fuck? Look at all of these settings. Text settings, graphic settings, speedrun settings, accessibility. Why? There's no need for this. All these color settings, the aim settings, vibration settings, assist settings, visual settings, depth settings, my fucking life settings. I'm not even 1 minute past this game. No, not 1 minute. I've not even started anything yet and I'm already overwhelmed and confused. I feel like I'm gonna explode. So after the event of A Crack in Time, Ratchet & Clank are celebrated as heroes. Again, and once more after that last time, where they both are raising doubts over the decisions in the game, resulting in them both swapping their characters, with Ratchet being the careful, concerned individual that you always see Clank playing in previous games, and Clank being the optimistic, risk-taking, humorous person, which is normally Ratchet's department, and I gotta say it's strange as a biscuit. This whole intro celebration section was just amazing. I absolutely loved the transitions, the whole level being a history lesson for people just getting into Ratchet & Clank being narrated by Captain Quark! Except it's more of just a Captain Quark and not the Captain Quark, as they got rid of the original voice actor, in which disappointment isn't the only feeling I'm experiencing during this tough time. But you know, I've been playing Ratchet & Clank games for God knows how long, and I've played nearly every single iteration of their games, so trust me when I say I know how their games work and what makes a Ratchet & Clank game. But when I started playing Rift Apart, I was hit with something unexpected, something strange, something scary for a game such as Ratchet & Clank. And it was this strange sensation that would ever shape my realization on that everything I knew was a lie, and that was the new controls. Okay, it doesn't sound that big of a deal really, but there's always been this basic style of playing Ratchet & Clank that's not remotely been changed at all, surprisingly, even when we transitioned to the PS4. But now, the unthinkable is now upon us. Everything is just different, and everything about the original control scheme has just magically just vanished in the blink of an eye, and has taken more of a modern approach with aiming and movement, with strafing ceasing to exist, and gameplay overall feels completely changed and nothing like I used to know, which confuses me so much on playing it first time round and loving it. It's different, I won't disagree there. No strafing at all and no proper way to strategically move when in firefights. It's all been replaced with a much smoother and different system, and has every reason possible for me to not like or enjoy it as a die-hard Ratchet & Clank fan. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting sick of hearing Ratchet & Clank, so for now I'm going to refer to it as RNC, so this video isn't repetitive and so much more easier when writing my script, because right here in the studio I'm about to look like this if I say Ratchet & Clank one more time within the next 30 fucking seconds. And despite all that, and the fact it took me a while to fully grasp the controls and become really comfortable with it, I bloody well loved it. It felt more relaxed and actually made you fully in control of every move you made and every trigger you pulled on your guns. And we have now returned to the glory days of RNC, where nearly every single gun is memorable, leaves a lasting impression, and has a use more often than not. In the last two RNC games, the guns to me at least never really were that good or memorable and just felt stock as anything, so I've never really had this feeling of where every single weapon feels different and has its own use and style to it like it felt in the original first 3 games. Even to the point of having weapons in Rift Apart that just don't seem like they belong in an RNC game. I didn't get every gun in this game, but every single one I got felt important and like it was an entirely different story from every other single weapon, from the huge selection of weapons you can get available at the vendors. And every weapon also has this half fire mode to it, where being careful with the fire button will fire differently than you holding down the trigger fully, which will make you fire the weapon to its full potential, such as making guns a full fire auto or extending an arc of a weapon that's like a throwable to its furthest length, and really adds a further depth to all the weapons and make you think what one you want to use during combat. And as usual, upgrading is back once again, but instead raritanium here being used as your source of materials to help process your upgrades for all your weapons, helping you with different attributes for your weapons such as more ammo, wider spread, ricochet, and how much you have also leveled them up in combat, which as you know is a norm for RNC games. But after Nefarious intervenes in the ceremony, he creates several rifts with the newly rebuilt Dimensionator and send our heroes to an alternate dimension where Nefarious is ruler of everyone and everything. And thank for the love of God they got the original voice actor for Nefarious. And I think it's safe to say that in the year of 2021 I can say this: the guy enjoys his role too damn much at this point, and his performance here in Rift Apart, it is just too damn good. Because honestly, the dude just keeps getting better at this. And that's where we are introduced to the new lead character alongside with Ratchet, Rivet, voiced by none other than Jennifer fucking Hale.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Oh, and to keep you all busy while I'm gone, got this at Zerky's. Mort can finally fix that ship she's been working on. I don't know about your dimension, but out here, things never go according to plan. Improvisation is a skill you learn very fast. Phantom, Moidoi, Captain Quantum, Klatchki, me.
A Lombax part of this dimension's resistance fighting against the armies of Nefarious, and seems very similar to Ratchet, such as also being a heroic, adventure-loving, sassy, quick-to-act individual. But like all alternate realities, she has a few things different about her character that makes her unique and much more different than Ratchet, such as being a bit bitter inside, making her have less hope and can lack forgiveness a lot of the time, which stems from her PTSD after losing her arm to, well, it's spoilers. I was really quite worried on how they were going to do Rivet and what she was going to be like compared to Ratchet, and how the two would interact when they shared screens with each other, and I'm so glad that they somehow managed to nail a version of Ratchet that you feel more sorry for and feels like the Ratchet from the original first game when he had less compassion, as that's something I've not really seen at all since then. And it's already interesting enough to see these two share screens, as you have one Lombax who knows what winning feels like, and the other one who has never really felt true happiness inside of her and has always lost her big fights. But there's actually an alternate reality version of Clank named Kit, who is nothing like Clank, as she is very fearful of everything in her life and very unbelieving of herself because of her past, and I would mention it yet again, but even more spoilers. You know, Kit is not featured in this game as much as the other three, Rivet, Ratchet and Clank. So, as you can imagine, you just see Rivet, Ratchet and Clank all the time, but every time that they're on screen, I'm slowly and surely reminded of an adult Sooty Sue and Sweep. That's not a joke, I genuinely just keep thinking that. But by God, these spectacles of planets are absolutely stunning to the eyes. I've never been so stunned by how well an RNC game looks. I mean, look at that sunrise. Everything in terms of graphics are so detailed down to the tiniest speck. Even the boxes have textures to them and lighting exposure. Dem boxes look good. But easily the highlights of these graphics are when you are looking at the widened planet landscapes from afar, or going through these grind sections which don't last overly too long but are visually astounding to look at. And very unrelated to anything being said here, but I personally love the pirate planet when you go through these pirate trials and you get these game show-esque sections. I don't know why, I'm just saying that I really enjoyed them. But something happened, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it kind of made me laugh.
For now ye face your greatest trial yet. The terror of Boku Bay. The destroyer of Moon 34B. The inspiration behind every midnight tale. Every shape in the shadows. And all that be unholy in our fair galaxy. The one, the only, Snoojax!
It's just a Grunthor.
Was a Grunthor.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention our second trial be temporarily out of order.
This game just has a charm to it, a new one, a different one, never seen before from any other RNC games, and I personally love that most of what sets it apart differently from those games. It feels new and not like it's trying to borrow stuff from previous RNC titles, and it instead stands out from any other RNC game because it never tries to be like those other games in the franchise. I mean, I've never laughed at any of these games, maybe just a little chuckle here and there for the first time playing it, but there's just too much golden humor in Rift Apart to make you die from laughter. I've never laughed so hard at an RNC game before, with all the jokes and one-liners that are said by a good variety of characters, and there feels no waste of any of the characters here. Ratchet, Rivet, Kit and Clank all have something they go through to help with their story, and even though I loved the new duo's story, having the original duo have a complete switcheroo of characters and be changed entirely because of their experiences in a Kraken time was something I never expected. It takes time to develop every single little character, and that's what I appreciate the most out of Rift Apart and everything that it has, including the gameplay. And you know, with me saying that, I'm not really implying the gameplay is okay, because that is the farthest from the truth that I could ever be, as I feel this game is one of the best playing action platformers ever made, and without a shadow of a doubt, the best playing RNC game I've ever played, with so many ways of moving around differently and combine it with a vast and effective set of weapons, which like I said earlier are all meaningful and don't stick out like a sore thumb, plus the levels of craziness that can be stacked to all of this creates the most fun that I've ever had in an RNC game, in terms of gameplay. And yes, I was a bit skeptical of the new control style, and if I'm being honest, I do prefer it more and already miss it, as it was the style I grew up with as a kid. But even though that's the case, I absolutely, positively loved the new style and think it was a great choice, as it made for a much more smoother and better gameplay experience. And that's me just talking about the action portion. Exploring planets, well, it's just the same as any other game in the franchise actually. It's actually great looking around and always a thrill, and searching for stuff on these planets is just an absolute must, just like all the other games before, except only this time it looks even more beautiful than ever before. But I don't actually have much to add other than that. Maybe the fact it's a bit too linear a lot of the time and doesn't offer hidden optional paths as much, but it's okay because you can fly a fucking dragon. Ho ho ho, just you watch, peasants. It's Rivet in How to Train Your Dragon 4, Sargasso's Incineration. We are now in the year 2021, where there is a global pandemic still going on. John Cena has returned and is being loved in wrestling once again. The dream Spider-Man film all of us fanboys have dreamt of is finally happening. And we have fucking dragons and Ratchet and frickin' Clank.
God,
and adding so much more new stuff, including a much more bigger incentive for collecting gold bolts, giving you some of the coolest extras and senseless shit I've ever seen in a video game, like currency to replace bolts, or different melee weapons for both Rivet and Ratchet, or my personal favourite, RPG hit points display when damaging enemies in combat. It's nonsensical, it's stupid, it's silly, it's ridiculous, it's straight up out of the book wackadoodle, but honestly, it's one of the best things I loved about this game. Thank you, Insomniac developers. And having even more extra features being added, such as equipable armor obtained from these hidden portals that are scattered across all the levels, which give unique platforming sections that offer a little bit of challenge in them, and these armors offer bonuses like bolts gained or damages for your own weapons by a certain percentage, and you can also customize these armors in certain color schemes, which honestly look really cool. I didn't care much for the stats as I never really noticed any differences in gameplay with it. I just wore certain armors with certain colors because it looked really awesome, especially the ones you get at the arena tournaments, which are honestly fine. You see, this is my problem with modern RNC games these days. Every time they release one with a tournament in it, they just never seem to be that good. They always feel like they are just there as an optional thing in the background, and never feel like a ton of effort was put into it. Like, no shame on Rift Apart, it's a decent tournament arena with some nice challenges here and there. Okay at best. I've never probably loved a tournament arena since A Crack in Time, and now these days I just feel like they need to quit it with these tournament arenas as a thing that needs to be there type of thing, and it just sucks, man. I love the idea of it being there, but unless you're going to put proper effort into it and make it feel special, Insomniac, please stop making these. But you know what? It's a new Ratchet & Clank game. It's something brand new with no major callbacks at all, and a story that feels completely different to a surprisingly entertaining 15 plus hours, and that's something rare to find these days. Plus, it also feels incredibly fleshed out with all its characters. It's an amazing game without those things, but it decides to go that extra mile to be risky and not follow a simple rule of trying to stick by what has made a Ratchet & Clank game. It ends up being my favourite PlayStation 5 game as of yet, and seems to lead a bright future for the Ratchet & Clank franchise. But after playing 15 plus hours from start to finish of Rift Apart, honestly, what do I have to say about today? I love Rift Apart. There's so much else I haven't mentioned today, mainly because I just thought it was pointless, like the soundtrack. It just doesn't feel like it belongs in a Ratchet & Clank game, but it's amazing, I won't lie. Even in the final battle, it's absolutely amazing, and it just proves that you don't need to follow the same trends with Ratchet & Clank all the time. Just try something new, and honestly, that's kind of why I love Rift Apart. I absolutely love Rift Apart. For one of the first PlayStation 5 games that I probably bought, like, you know, actually properly bought physically, I'm honestly surprised by how well Rift Apart turned out, and although it's not my favourite Ratchet & Clank game, it still belongs to 3. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is honestly one of the best PlayStation 5 games right now. Like, if you've not got it, I would recommend playing it, even though you're not a Ratchet & Clank fan. It's still going to be a joyous occasion to get through, and honestly, the fact that they set up a sequel for this game with Lombaxes and all that, honestly, just makes me so giddy up inside, because that game has so much potential to be one of the best Ratchet & Clank games of all time. And I say that all the time, but honestly, it does, and rightfully so. We should get it and not be fake promised like an Alien Isolation 2 situation. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Gamessnia, and thank you all for joining me tonight on this broadcast of the Gamessnia Show once more. And until the very next broadcast, guys, I will see you all in the very next Gamessnia Show episode. Until then, guys, Gamessnia signing off.